I'm gonna meet Weird Al.
What? You think you can kill me with this and no one's gonna find out because this is gonna melt?
I don't know. I'm not into that sick shit.
My ma, she's been breaking my heart lately. She's just so sick in the hospital. Oh my
Oh
god.
my god, are you okay?
I'll be okay, baby. Cocaine in the brain.
Welcome to the first episode of Microbudget with RSStB. I'm Alex Murphy.
And I'm Marissa Murphy.
For 10 years, Marissa and I have produced a comedy web series of short films called Ricky Shore Sings the Blues, or RSStB. In it, we play fictional versions of ourselves, and the subject matter is drawn from our personal lives. We're a two-person cast and crew. Our camera person is a tripod, and an inexpensive one at that. At this point, we've made almost 1,000 episodes of RSStB, each averaging around 3 minutes in length. If you string them all together, the show runs over 15 DVDs in length. It's basically the story of our lives. In 2015, we released our first two feature-length movies, Pain Shack and Blowing Raspberries. And this summer, we'll be releasing our third film, Bad Energy. Excluding the cost of equipment that we already owned, we made Pain Shack for the cost of a bald cap, a pair of costume glasses, and a large pizza. With Blowing Raspberries, the budget went to a bottle of fake blood and some lunch meat. We've self-distributed these films on DVD to our viewers through a page on storeenvy.com, just using social media to promote. Through making our films, Marissa and I have dug through the trenches of micro-budget filmmaking. I've always said movies are political because there's a hierarchy in the film industry. It's an art form that's been turned into big business. The no-budget filmmakers are at the bottom of the food chain, which isn't necessarily a bad place to be. It can be liberating. This first episode is an introduction to us. But in the future, we'll be analyzing specific movies, discussing certain directors, offering tips for filmmakers, and whatever else we can think of that relates to our run-and-gun filmmaking philosophy. Let me give you a little backstory on RSStB. I had been making short comedy sketches since I was a teenager. My friends and I would compile our sketches on VHS tapes and sell them to our classmates and hand them out at punk shows. I studied fiction writing and English in college, and during that time I only made a few shorts. One of them was called Ricky Shore Sings the Blues, and the title came from a line of dialogue that was improvised because we needed an opening line. I told my friend to say, "Have you heard the new Ricky Shore album, Ricky Shore Sings the Blues?" Then, when I was 24 years old, in 2006, I decided to start making comedy sketches regularly and post them on YouTube. YouTube was just kind of in its infancy, and I asked my friend Megan to be the camera person. And the sketches were mostly just kind of me hamming it up in front of the camera. I got my brother and some of his friends to act in a few sketches, but the majority of the material was me. And I said to Megan, we need another character in this because I'm starting to get tired of looking at myself. I didn't even want to be in them. Megan didn't want to be in them, so I was the only actor I could find who would be reliable. Megan suggested her friend Marissa. Marissa and I had met once before. We got along, so I thought, great. Marissa and I went to high school together. She was a few grades beneath me, so I didn't know her at the time. And we also went to a theater camp together, but we didn't know each other there either. So it's like we've kind of always been in each other's lives. It's kind of kismet the way this all came together. The first sketch that we shot together was called Old Friends, and in it I proposed to her. My character proposes to her. And then I turn into a total asshole right after she accepts. And shortly after that, we started dating, and then we moved in together.
So my friends just texted me. They want some cigarettes. Is it cool if they come over? You got the best shit.
Megan, she showed me Weird Al Raped Me, which was the first skit that they shot. And, you know, when she told me she wanted to show me this, I was, you know, skeptical, and I ended up loving it. I thought it was hilarious. And then when she said, you know, would you want to be in one, I was like super excited because I thought it was really funny. And then I watched Big Brother. I thought that one was really funny too. And so I was excited to be a part of it. And when we set up the time to do it, I thought that, you know, I was going to go over there. We were going to sit down. We were going to write out a script and, you know, and it would be like an all day process. But I was like ready to do that. You know, I was excited for it. And then I got there and I realized that the way that they shot it was different. It was, you know, more improvised. There was an idea and we just kind of improved off each other from there. And that was, totally fine by me too, because I grew up acting and I've, taken classes, and improv is, no problem.
We weren't making that many videos. We were posting maybe one a week, once a month. And then we just decided to post one every single day to sort of discipline ourselves to put out creative work on a regular basis.
Social media was a lot smaller when we started RSStB. We were uploading our episodes to YouTube and then linking them to MySpace. On MySpace, we were sending friend requests to Lloyd Kaufman fans and random people. We would sit there for hours doing that, trying to get interest in RSStB, get people to see it.
What are you doing?
Marissa, are you okay?
No. Charlie just made me feel really weird. I don't know what's going on right now.
What did I do wrong? Charlie, you scumbag.
We posted to Funny or Die and quarterlife.com. Quarterlife was a web series on YouTube that was being turned into a 1-hour drama for NBC. The website was basically an ad for the show, but they were trying to market it as a social networking site for artists. We had a friend who worked for the site, and he introduced our videos to his bosses and coworkers. Everyone at the show seemed to be very supportive of us, and we were regularly featured on the start page. Too bad the show only lasted for one episode, and the site was shut down soon after. That seems to be the way it goes in Hollywood. You win some, you lose some. It all hinges on luck.
We kind of learned our audience and learned what worked and what didn't, and we developed the show into sort of a satire on pop culture, and also just sort of like a meta exploration of our lives. And it's sort of a surreal, absurdist, realist show. I don't really know how to describe it, but it was really just a way for us to explore all of our conflicts and emotions, and it became like a video journal. And not that we were going for quantity over quality, and we were really trying to make each episode funny. And there were nights that we would spend hours.
It was difficult. It was really difficult too. Yeah, to come up with an idea every day. Yeah, a lot of times we were sitting there, and it was just it was getting later, and we're trying, and you think maybe it's not going to happen, but then somehow it does. I think that's usually when you get like a really good idea, maybe too, is right before. It's like, all right, it's now or never.
Right. Some people say you can't force inspiration, but I don't really necessarily think that's true. Ray Bradbury has a good quote. He talks about how you can force creativity. I mean, if you're a writer, you're an artist, it's a job. And I mean, sometimes you have to work when you don't want to. And if you just kind of get into that zone, if you discipline yourself, it's like a muscle. The more you work it out, then the stronger it'll be. So your creativity will be easier to access if you're doing it on a daily basis. Most of our friends didn't watch, and we can say this because they aren't listening to this right now. And if they're sneaking and listening now, then they wouldn't tell us anyway. We had to build our fan base from scratch. And there were a lot of hard times, like even filming, not just coming up with the ideas, but filming. Like, there was one time that was just like
the
crazy.
Worst time ever. So yeah, very early days of RSStB, there's a skit called Road Trip. And in it, we are all happy and excited that we're going on a road trip. It's really fun. And then, all of a sudden, this masked guy with a gun comes and kills me and puts me in the trunk. And so we filmed it on Alex's parents' street. And, we had like a plastic looking gun. It didn't look realistic. And Alex's parents' street, there aren't that many houses on it. It's kind of a little secluded, so we thought we were all good. And then all of a sudden, cops with their AKs drawn are like right there.
Yeah, well, I heard really sirens, and I got out of the car. And which you shouldn't do if the cops are rolling up on you.
I froze.
Yeah, well, I got out of the car and kind of like put my hands up in the air, and they rolled up on us, and they were saying that someone had called the police that drove past, and that there was a bank robbery in the area. And
right, and I had like fake blood on like my face, and
so it quickly became apparent that we were just filming a video. We had video equipment and fake blood and a toy gun, but they didn't want to come out for nothing, so they smashed our toy gun, and then they said, we don't want to ruin your fun, and we thought, well, then why did you smash our prop?
So
But it was
a lesson that taught us, to be extra just cautious too, when you're filming something with fake guns and blood and
you're out in public.
Right, you never know.
Right. And I mean, that's another reason why our show mostly takes place in our home, because it's more controlled, it's easier. And so we feel that we give the best performances, and we can
control the environment.
Yeah, we can tell the stories we want to tell in the best way that we can in a controlled environment. I mean, that's what, Hollywood films, a lot of them look so artificial because they're shot on a set. They're not really, like in a high school movie, it's not actually, they're not filming in a real high school. They build a set inside of a giant soundstage, and because they need that controlled environment. So when you're an independent filmmaker, it can become very difficult, especially when you're out in public. And I mean, like, and even if you don't get in trouble, like you still aren't, even if you're not, using fake guns and fake blood, you can't just
pulling out a camera.
Just pulling out a camera, you can't really do that anywhere. You need permits, and also, people will flock like birds on breadcrumbs to someone holding a video camera, so your shots can get ruined, and it's difficult.
There's an episode called Northern Town, and we filmed it when we were living in Ann Arbor, and we were making an episode every day. And there was a huge snowstorm, and we took that and decided, that was a perfect opportunity to use that and film something. So we talked to our friend Joey, who's been in a lot of episodes of RSStB, and we had to go pick him up in this crazy snowstorm, the kind where it's really difficult to drive, and you're like crawling through the roads and
right, sliding and
right. But the cool part was we were able to film just in the street because nobody was out.
Right, we were able to use it, and that's what we've always tried to do, is really use whatever opportunities we have to create something.
Right. If we're at a place there's a pool, well, okay, let's do a skit where you push me in a pool. So being resourceful is key if you're a micro-budget filmmaker. When we committed to doing an episode of RSStB every day, we brought our camera wherever we went. We were meeting up with friends, then we had our camera.
Yeah, just in case they wanted to act in a video.
Right. And we hoped they did.
Yeah, and just to have some variety in the cast. And we would bring our laptop with us on vacations, and we'd shoot videos, and then, you'd fall asleep in the hotel room, and I'd be in bed next to you on the laptop editing and then posting it on YouTube.
Alex, I need to go downtown. Will you come with me?
Yeah, sure, but it's really bad out. There's a winter storm warning.
In the summer of 2008, we moved to LA. We had been planning it. It was something that, we were serious about what we do, and we wanted to go to LA and see what kind of connections we could make and what could happen.
Yeah, and LA is pretty much like everybody says it is. It's a lot of people who want to be famous, and there are a lot of people everyone's an artist, but no one really seems to do much. And I mean, there are a lot of great people in LA, a lot of great artists who work really hard, and there's an important community, a very supportive community of artists there. But it's also, it can feel like, you're a little fish in a big pond. And it's expensive, and it's difficult, and it's a beautiful lifestyle in a lot of ways, but it's also exasperating. We eventually grew tired of it after a year and a half. I mean, I don't know if we just, what we do is we like to be, we're independent filmmakers. It's never really been that important to us to try to secure any kind of like studio deal or any kind of mainstream success. We always focused on building an audience
and
ourselves.
Making our art how we do it.
Right. And we realized after a while in LA that we didn't need to be there to do what we do. And now with the internet, I mean, like, the most popular shows on YouTube are made across the world. So it's like, you really don't have to be there, especially if you don't want to be. But it was interesting when we were there. We did connect with a lot of like-minded people, and we were involved with the site Funny or Die. We were posting to that site a lot and kind of involved in the community on there. So we had some mutual friends through that, other filmmakers and comedians, people who were making sketches, and
that was nice to be able to have also people to act in RSStB with us too, because a lot of it, it's just us, or maybe if we can get a family member to come out or something like that. But it was nice to be able to work with other people who are interested in what you're interested in and who are willing to help you, and then you're in their work, and it's nice.
Right. And that's probably the best thing about being in a group of artists. And so the unfortunate reality of Los Angeles is that it's extremely shallow. It's all about numbers and appearances, and the art kind of gets lost unless you're serious about it.
I told my boyfriend I was going out with my friends, but really I was going to a pole dancing class. He loved it. Hey, I just got done with my first night of stripping.
Wait, what? By the time we left LA, we were getting pretty popular on YouTube. And this was before they had allowed any account to be monetized. You had to be selected to be a YouTube partner, and it was if you were popular enough, and it was this bizarre agreement. And when they opened monetization to everybody, we were involved in that, but you have to get a lot of hits to make any money. We were to us, the real payment was our audience, and the way that our audience appreciated what we did. And we were getting, we were connecting with a lot of interesting people from across the world. We also dealt with a lot of trolls and fake accounts, death threats, rape threats.
Yeah.
And that's putting yourself out there online. So it's like, I don't know, we've been involved in a lot of nasty battles with people online.
That's the nature of online.
Right.
There are the really great people you meet, and then there are a lot of psychos.
In the early days of YouTube, most of the users were from a lower economic class, people who didn't have cable, who kind of, or might not have jobs. They spent a lot of their time online. And also you had a lot of 13-year-olds. So people didn't take YouTube seriously. It wasn't until there were successful web series produced by famous people on YouTube that the mainstream started to take notice. Back then, though, it was very competitive because everyone wanted to be taken seriously. I mean, it still is. That's the thing about indie filmmaking. It's not very competitive because, people, they have room for more than one filmmaker to be a fan of. I mean, people want a variety, but a lot of filmmakers are very territorial. They've spent their lives looking at people rolling their eyes at them and scoffing at their work, and they want to be taken seriously because it's something that they put a lot of time and effort into, and you really put yourself out on the line when you're a filmmaker. You're making art, and when people aren't taking it seriously because it's not making money or you're not on the cover of a magazine, then it can be pretty frustrating. So I think a lot of filmmakers internalize that, and they kind of become bitter or arrogant.
There's this YouTube video game reviewer. We were holding a Stick'em chat for our viewers. Stick'em is like a Google Hangout where people meet up online. And a lot of people showed up. It was cool. And then there was a lull in the conversation. And this guy goes, "I have the most subscribers out of anyone here." It was just so annoying.
So tactless. And we've never given a shit about subscribers. To us, one nice message from a viewer is worth more than 1,000 subs.
Definitely.
Do you see this gorgeous head of hair?
Why are you so obsessed with his hair?
Because I'm going bald.
After we got kind of sick of YouTube, we tried to make some feature films. This was about 5 years ago. And we started shooting a horror movie called Pain Shack. And we actually did sort of a primitive version of a Kickstarter. We crowdfunded amongst our viewers online, and this proved to be a terrible decision because the movie took several years to complete, and a lot of people thought they'd been ripped off, and we felt guilty about it
The whole time.
the whole time.
And we were trying to get to make a movie. It's extremely difficult, especially when it's basically just the two of us. So, you know, it took a lot of time, but we made it.
What were some of the difficulties we experienced while trying to make Pain Shack the first time?
Well, it's always difficult to... It's hard to make a movie that has just two characters. We need other people. So there's always that, trying to coordinate with someone else's schedule, trying to get them to take it seriously, you know, making a movie for no money. And
we shoot the RSStB episodes ourselves. We either are shooting each other, or we fasten the camera to a tripod and jump in front of it. There is no cameraman. There are no audio specialists. We have our audio mounted to the top of a camera, or it's mounted to a different tripod and attached to the camera.
Speaking of audio, that was one of the biggest holdups with Pain Shack, was trying to figure out
how to get clean
the
audio,
what we should use, and trying out mixers and trying out different equipment until we finally, you know, came up with the setup that we have now, which is what you were just talking about. We have the Rode mic.
Our Microbudget setup is a Rode video mic, which is attached to a Zoom H4n. We set the levels on the Zoom at around 60 when we're filming, and both the mic level and the recording level. And we wire the Zoom into the camera's input. We have a Canon 60D. It's an upgrade from our old Canon GL1 that we used to shoot the first 650 episodes of RSStB, give or take. The audio recording level on the 60D is set at 1 notch above 0. So the Zoom is actually used as a preamp. We don't use any audio recorded with the Zoom. We kind of just filter the audio through the Zoom. I learned about this setup from a blog, and this was after a lot of kicking and screaming over audio. We'd gone through a bunch of juiced link gizmos that were junk and expensive, and we eventually settled on this because the audio was pretty clean. This podcast is recorded with our audio setup. Just trying to figure out your equipment is difficult. Being an independent filmmaker, you have to write, direct, shoot, edit, produce, promote, do everything. You're like, it's a million jobs in one. And on a studio film with a large budget, they have, you know, a cast and crew of hundreds. So when it's just two people trying to make a film, it's extremely difficult. When we finally kind of threw caution to wind, we decided not to focus on all of the technical details and not to focus on having, you know, a boom operator and a cameraman present at every shoot. When we decided to shoot our movies the same way we shot RSStB, that's when we were finally able to finish one.
It took us years to finish Pain Shack because making a feature-length film seemed impossible at the time. We would schedule with a cameraman, or we would schedule with an actor, and they would cancel, or they would move, or they would show up, but then by that time the seasons had changed.
And we'd have half of their scenes shot, and they would move, and then we'd have to recast the role and reshoot all of their scenes.
Right. The way we were able to make Pain Shack was by scrapping all the footage we had shot and starting all over.
When we finally did make Pain Shack, we uploaded it in installments to YouTube, and as we made it. And so we were just improvising it from the beginning to the end. Like, before we had scripts for our films, but for our feature-length films. But with Pain Shack, we took the same approach that we take to RSStB. And it was a lot of fun, and I'm very proud of Pain Shack. And we took it offline because we just felt like we'd put too much effort into it just to kind of give it away on YouTube for free. Somebody leaked it on a one of those piracy sites. I don't care. It's flattering, actually. I thought it was funny that they listed Tuna the dog in the credits. Pain Shack caused quite a stir on YouTube because we were making fun of a very well-known YouTuber who used to be a friend of ours, and he crossed us in a pretty shitty way. So whenever that happens, that usually gives us fuel for our fire. And a lot of our inspiration for RSSTB has come through the people who come at us. And that's just in the nature of comedy, satire, parody. Will make fun of somebody. And so when we marketed Pain Shack on DVD, we marketed it as a horror movie to horror fans who didn't know about this YouTuber. And so we joined a lot of these like independent horror Facebook groups, and we made a list of horror conventions to hit with free screeners. And the first convention that we looked up was Cinema Wasteland. We had no idea what this was.
It was within driving distance.
It was within driving distance, and it was a few weeks from when we looked it up. So we were like, perfect, let's go there and hand out copies. Well, Cinema Wasteland turned out to be very important, and there are a lot of people who are involved in the indie horror community who attend the event, and we were pretty ruthless about promoting it online, and we got a lot of buzz behind it. And people enjoyed it. Some people hated it. Some people loved it.
Got a lot of good reviews.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so we decided that with our next movie, we would, instead of posting it online for free, we continued to post RSSTB for free, but then we made our second feature, Blowing Raspberries, we made with the intention of releasing on DVD ourselves to the horror community and to our fans. And we had this time we had a little bit more help with it. And we had a friend who was supposed to be doing the FX for it. He was someone who had been doing other horror films in the area, and we were going to work together. And halfway through filming, he dropped out because he has mental issues. And then he, I don't know, just kind of went crazy online and freaked out and acted like a weirdo. And then some other people in the horror industry kind of followed him like sheep.
A little small chain reaction of some people.
Yeah, of some people being pissed off at us. So then we made fun of some people and some RSSTBs, as we usually do. And then there was this hilarious thread in one of the groups where people were totally bashing on Pain Shack. All these people who had bought the DVD. One guy posted a picture of Pain Shack in the toilet with poop. And I thought that was hilarious because it's like, then they had to reach in there and grab out the poopy copy. And they bought the copies. I don't give a shit what they do.
Right. Go poop all over it.
Right. Yeah. So that was, the horror community is kind of, it's a powder keg. And so you just kind of have to not get too involved in the drama.
There seems to be a lot of drama with a lot of finding somebody to get mad at and kick out of the community, and
yeah,
it's just
a lot of witch
strange.
hunts and mob mentality.
A lot of drama.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't know. We've
met some good people.
We've met
too,
a lot of great people.
So it's the same, just with anything.
Right, just like it was with YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
There were the crazies, and there are the.
And some people love us, and some people hate us. So.
Right, and that's kind of goes with the territory, especially when you're trying to make edgy comedy. Indie horror is so crazy that we're going to devote an entire episode to it in the future.
I got major investors in this. That means that Ricky is going to have food in his tummy while he is helping us out.
What were you doing up there with him?
Getting to know him? That is a very sweet young boy up there.
So that's our first episode.
It's been a wild 10 years.
Yeah, hope you enjoyed our stories. And in the future, we won't be just talking about ourselves. We'll be talking about
directors, writing screenplays,
issues related to the film industry, common struggles with micro-budget filmmakers, and opportunities that micro-budget filmmakers have to get their work seen.
Until next time, this is Marissa.
No, you were supposed to fucking say for the last goddamn time, thank you for listening to the first episode. You're so fucking stupid.
I'm trying to get it right. God.